Thank you. I just want to say really congratulations for everything that you've accomplished. It's a big moment, 7 months in, and there's more to come. And it's timely because it's the afternoon, and Justin is going to be talking about design and food, and design and urban agriculture and healthy food. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to you, and we'll come and chat after when you're done.
Sure. Thank you. Thank you, guys. Thank you, everybody, for coming. I'm really excited to share the work and kind of show what I've been up to while being at MAD. Oh, here we go. This is just a bio. So at MAD this year, I was sort of exploring the idea of creating a green corridor through Dorchester and Mattapan, the Dorchester and Mattapan neighborhoods in Boston, an area that I'm really familiar with and where I'm from, specifically through green infrastructure and food sovereignty. And I wanted to start off with a video that I made recently that I think sort of encapsulates that idea and the essence of sort of culture in Boston, how I'd like to bring that into the picture. And centered around greenhouses, and then maybe I'll go through a few projects that kind of hint towards getting to that end goal. Let's see if this works.
Considering the growing density of cities and the immediate need for fresh food in proximity to those that need it, the necessity for urban growth space has never been more pressing. Moving beyond our typical urban agriculture typologies, the implementation of year-round growth can and has proven to expand the output of existing urban land already, dedicated to closing the gap between where we grow our food and where we need it most. Interior urban growth spaces have recently been on the rise, but have been typically implemented under the currently limited typology that is the standard ready-made greenhouse or the hyper-productive food lab, both missing the essence of what made urban agriculture different from rural, the people. If we are going to move the greenhouse into the city, do we have to ask it to do more than just produce food? Since the late 19th century, urban agriculture has served its respective context in more ways than just production. The urban farm became the center of community, essential democratic space where neighbors from all walks of life could share stories, recipes, farming practices, and resources with one another. Planting their identities into the earth, this urban landscape became a reflection of culture, passing of tradition, and a connection to a homeland some immigrants could not get back to. But through native culinary practices and the ability to grow foods of familiarity, people have been able to carry their history with them. This essential ethos that has been baked into the urban farm has not yet translated into the urban greenhouse, a largely generic structure that has provided farmers and communities the opportunity to increase crop yield and expand operations beyond their normal seasons. A key innovation as food security within urban contexts becomes a more prevalent issue, but this expansion of production has come at the expense of the atmosphere that has made the urban farm what it is, the legibility of authorship, of collaboration, of identity. The greenhouse kit is a generic solution, cheap, easy to construct, and pre-engineered, making it the obvious choice for more grassroots efforts that urban agriculture endeavors tend to be. But should we ask more of this form as it moves to expand upon the legacy of its predecessor? Should a greenhouse for an African community in Maine look like a greenhouse for a Hispanic community in California? Two different communities in two different climates. Considering the scarcity of open public spaces, what other programs can it support or contain? Can we take a greenhouse kit that exists everywhere and develop a reconstruction so that it reacts to the constraints of its location? Looking forward, how can we envision the future of the greenhouse in the city? This thesis looks at the urban greenhouse building typology as a vehicle to investigate the role of storytelling, culture, and identity in urban context and how it can push architecture toward rich specificity, and simultaneously how architecture then can bend urban fabric to accommodate, reflect, and anchor the identities of the users moving within it.
So getting to this point about kind of transforming the urban greenhouse sort of came through a set of projects that I did before MAD and while I was at MAD. This is the Geneva Ave Hero Hope Garden in Roxbury. We completed this project in the summer of 2019, and the idea was taking the existing urban agricultural landscape that Boston has and has been really fruitful for the community, and kind of upgrading that with built architecture and how sort of architecture can help reflect the communities that it's within. This is a wood-built project, but it did have a few pitfalls and think about budget and sort of the kind of building technology that comes within making a greenhouse. The next project is the community greenhouse project in Morton Street, off Morton Street, and also in Aspinwall. So this was a sort of direct reaction to that, where we had more funding in a better starting place. So so the idea was to take a greenhouse kit, to sort of upgrade the capabilities that come to cost with urban agriculture, and then try to bring in a lot of the things that we tried to achieve the first go around with programming and essential public spaces for the community. And then most recently, a team of Sheila and sort of a team of my classmates, we won the Mayor's Office's New Urban Mechanics Public Space Invitational. So now we're developing these compact portable kitchens that we can prop up in existing urban agricultural spaces to sort of promote more community spaces where people can kind of come together, share the recipes, share what they're growing in the gardens, and kind of create a way for non-farmers and community members to kind of come together and kind of share those aspects together. Thank you. Extra one.
Amazing. Let's give it up to Justin for his award. Getting stuff done. It seems like this is a really great example of a very integrated project that involves building technology. It obviously involves design, community, history, food cultures, food heritages. Maybe you can just reflect a little bit on what you see the impact of being able to design a kit that could be adapted to different climates, that would be a low-cost piece of infrastructure that would enable communities to grow food 3 seasons or year-round. Let's start with that.
Yeah, I think my initial proposal for the Morningside Academy of Design was sort of creating this corridor, and it sort of took place within doing these smaller projects that can kind of contribute to that can potentially turn into a constellation to kind of make a bigger infrastructural moment. And I think the kits can enable the community members to make decisions for themselves while also recognizing the need for design and enabling them with the tools to do that. And then all within reflecting on the communities that they're within and sort of creating this language around food and agriculture that already is prevalent, but just kind of could use an extra boost that I think designers can provide.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's really interesting, the idea of taking a standard kit, something that can be mass manufactured, something that's affordable, and then using local materials, brick, earth brick, wood, to essentially make a passive greenhouse that will transform that kit from its kind of generic glass or plexi on all 4 sides to something that can really hold the heat of the sun.
Definitely, and I think with the product that we're working on now, having these sort of not going fully built into a sort of greenhouse, but providing this smaller infrastructural piece that can kind of get the wheels moving on people kind of taking ownership of the spaces, being there for longer periods of time with sort of lighting and solar infrastructure, and then kind of creating a space to facilitate those conversations where people kind of share stories and share a lot of things that they're working on the similar way we're doing now is kind of the real goal. And I think bringing that into the greenhouse, this is a first step, is a really good move. There's
probably a really interesting opportunity for different cultures, different generations to meet in these pop-up kitchens, so-called, and to tell stories about recipes and to use this small-scale solar that we're introducing to power small blenders for smoothies, to make local quick podcasts, to engage local public schools about healthy food and gardening, and also about environmental education, right?
Yeah, I think one of the main things I was trying to get across in the video was sort of the kind of gray space that comes with all these infrastructural interventions. Yes, you do have the solar power, the bits and pieces that we go to school for to learn about, but there is kind of the personalities and the ideas and the culture that comes within just giving people the space to be people. Yes. And kind of exist and kind of create community. And I think that's the main piece I'd like to get across that doesn't usually come across in typical architectural projects.
Yes, and I think to expand on that point, I think it was your key insight that typically we take food from a grocery store or maybe from a garden, and we bring it into a building, a house, and then we eat it or prepare it in a kitchen. And you're really taking a kitchen and putting it back into a garden, right? And opening up that space.
Yeah, I think there was a few observations. It was one, food infrastructure and kind of food security is really important. And then the social aspect is like, when everybody ever goes to a house party, everybody hangs out in the kitchen. It's kind of the center of gravity that where people, you're sharing a meal with your partner. You have friends over, you want to cook for them. So it would seem like the ideal social space, and relating that to food is kind of one-to-one, and then bringing that outside so that everybody can share those things is super important and pivotal to the project for sure.
So maybe we can give a little teaser about the pop-up kitchens that will be coming to local gardens in Mattapan this summer. They're on wheels.
Yes. So ideally, we'd build a few, and these are the sites that we're working with, the communities that we're working with that are kind of giving us their feedback. So it'd be something that can travel around, and hopefully we're trying to program some events and have people come out to share food, share ideas, and really kick off the farming season. And I think the goal is to have it done by July, with some programming to come. Trying to bring some students with me and throw a party outside, basically.
Yes, we'll throw a couple of parties outside, each party focusing on a different kind of food and everything that can be done with that vegetable or fruit. I think you've also we could talk a little bit more about unpacking the kitchen, not only taking it into the garden, but unpacking what a kitchen is, which has really become, in the modern tradition, a kind of a sterile place. Of course, there has to be hygiene, it has to be clean, but we're sort of unpacking the stove and making that a center, right? Like a place of heat. And then thinking about preparation and sinks and washing that can be something that people can participate in and sit around. So you're kind of combining the kitchen table with the kitchen, right?
Exactly. Sort of breaking down the parts and pieces, talking to people, see how they relate to those pieces, and then where we can kind of configure them is, I think, where the magic happens. And we want to add a little bit of extra with music and places for people to store things. So there's a lot of practical things that need to be implemented, because we are serving the farmers that are there to work, but also giving them the space and utility to kind of have fun and enjoy themselves while they're doing it.
Yeah, I think one thing that the MIT class has produced, Justin, with his peers, is a really quick, mobile set of kitchen pieces, movable sinks, movable counters and tables, movable fireplace, stove, and packed those into garden equipment in a really ingenious way. Think wheelbarrows that suddenly pop up and expand into this kitchen. So within 20 minutes, you can have a full-blown party going on and start talking about vegetables, start preparing them, and start that whole kind of process of enjoying being together. Sounds really great.
I'm excited.
And what let's get serious for 1 second, okay, Justin? All right. How has this 7 months of fellowship and this project sort of enabled you to do something as an MIT student that you might not have been able to do before?
Yeah, I think being a part of Morningside is great. I think
nostalgia already.
I think I came into MIT with some experience and ready to hit the ground running. In working with you from the jump, I've been sort of asking you, how can I get get things done. I want to build things. I want to do things. I want to interact with people outside of the typical coursework and classroom. And I think Morningside's been really pivotal in that, giving us the space to do those things, giving us the resources and the support to kind of make something like this to happen, or even attempt to try to make something like this happen.
Yes.
So it's been a really great 7 months, which feels like a really short period of time.
Yes.
But yeah.
I think what Justin is also talking about is that, of course, in MIT we have classes and it's academic, it's pure research, or it's more abstract design. But in a case like this, not only is Justin innovating with this fundamental idea of bringing the kitchen back to the land and back to people and in the garden, but doing so respecting all the safety issues, all the code issues, every aspect that goes into making public sector work for the public. And that has historically been challenging to do at MIT, where there's a very strong divide, sometimes for good reasons, between what can be done in terms of direct action in our country, the US, and in our neighborhoods, and what MIT conducts as subject matter in classes. So in several different courses and studios, we try to bring those things together, but I think your project and your class project is really a great example of how that larger idea of food connects with building technology, with some mechanical engineering. There are wheels. Things do pop up. And also all of those aspects that really go into making a project real and implementing it, which I think is my own view, but I think that is really what the breakthrough trajectory of the Morningside Design Academy is, facilitating and removing some of those divisions between what we study in school and the kinds of projects we can take on, and the needs that are out there in the world, and how we can actually make that transfer, that innovation transfer from an idea, a great idea and innovation, to something that can be implemented out there in the world.
Yeah, I think the ability or the opportunity to kind of bridge the gap between pedagogy and practice,
yes,
in a practical manner for a greater cause has been kind of the baseline and the opportunity that's sort of given through MAD, which is, I think, super important.
Mm-hmm. Do you want to talk just a little? We probably don't have much time left, but do you want to talk a little bit about some of the parties that you imagine happening? The pop-up kitchen parties?
So there's a lot of programming that happens around these gardens, at least like opening days, work days. And I think we're meeting a lot of people outside, doing the research and coordinating with them, trying to get the best music possible, trying to coordinate with food that's on site, and then food that can come from local restaurants to support local businesses is super important. Trying to get the DJs together and a lot of the flyers. So I think it's going to be a lot of fun. Trying to do at least 3, but I think once it gets going, it's going to take on a life of itself for sure.
Would there be interest in getting on the email list? All right. There's an interest in food parties then. All right.
I'm going to be taking names and emails after this.
Mm-hmm. Any last thoughts, Justin?
Excited to be here. I'm happy I finally got a chance to share this all work with you guys and talk to my fellows afterwards.
Okay.
Thank you so much for all your work.
Thank you. What a wonderful way to deploy design, and what a wonderful way to create a community. And now you got it. There's like 100 people in here. We're all going to show up. So we have a little bit of time. Anybody has a burning question for Justin and Sheila? Or are you thinking about it until everybody's done? There we go.
So first off, I want to say I love this idea and this concept. It's absolutely great. I'm curious how you're thinking about trying to encourage people to use these facilities and this infrastructure that you're building. Because I see sometimes like public demonstrations that there's like a really great kind of opening, but then people just tend not to like build it into their schedules and their teams, and like it just doesn't get used as much anymore. So I'm curious how you're thinking about that longevity and how it can really have that sustainability and more people continue to use it in the custom.
Yeah, I think just having these 6 sites up all these sites come with specific community members that are caretakers of each site. They're there every season, excited. They recognize when new people come around. They're sort of really on top of it. And then the idea of bringing the kitchen to these sites we've already had those conversations, and they're all super excited about it. This isn't something that we wanted to sort of just, it is a pop-up cushion, but we didn't want to just pop it up in a neighborhood that didn't want it. So those conversations have been super pivotal in kind of forming the kitchen itself. And this isn't something that I'm not going to put in my garage afterwards. We had the conversation long term as well, like more specifically on Wilson Street. They're a super great community, super excited to have it, and would like to have it in the long term. So I think the afterlife of, like, the project almost starts after it's built. So, and I think the afterlife of it is super important and speaks to a lot of the things that you mentioned ahead of time. But I'm super confident that once it's demonstrated, easy to use, most people know how to use the kitchen, everybody knows how to kind of share those things, that'll reverberate and turn into something bigger and definitely have an afterlife for sure.
Okay, let's give Justin a hand. Thank you. We have another opportunity to ask questions in a minute.